Well, we're officially 2 months down in the NRL season, and we're starting to see some really good things happening in the world of rugby league. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Appreciate you joining me again for a brand new week. Lots of changes on the ladder this week, and a lot of very surprising results, which I'm really excited to get into. Obviously, as you guys know, going to get straight into the ladder. Panthers still undefeated on 16 points. Haven't dropped the game yet, which is pretty impressive. Even though they didn't have the greatest of performances on the weekend against the Titans, they still managed to get the job done and remain undefeated. Following in second is Storm on 14 points. Have been on a hell of a run, Storm, recently. Third and fourth will be the Cowboys, who've jumped up from fifth to third on 10 points, playing some really good football. Sharks, with that loss, sit on fourth with 10 points. Eagles sitting in fifth, going down from third to fifth on 10 points. And then you've got the next few teams on 8 points. To round out the top 8 there, Rabbitohs, Roosters, and the Sea Eagles. Now, the next few teams on the 8 points that are on the bottom half of the ladder are Broncos, Dragons, and the Warriors. And the next 5 teams are all on 4 points. The Titans, the Tigers, the Raiders, the Bulldogs, who finally get their second win of the season in pretty dramatic fashion, and the Newcastle Knights, who are sitting dead last by a few points there in terms of points differential, sitting there last on 4 points and having a very, very poor run in the most of recent few games. Now, guys, let's get straight into it. The Broncos 16 defeated the Sharks 7, and if I can be really honest here, I thought this was a really good win for the Broncos. I thought the first 40 minutes, they were okay. You know, I know they were defending their line a little bit because the Sharks kept coming at them, but the Sharks couldn't really ice those plays. And because they couldn't ice those plays, it didn't help with their attack. They started to rush a few things, the Sharks. You started to notice that they didn't play that easy, calm type of under pressure football that they've been playing recently. They seemed like they were under a lot of pressure. They seemed like they fought every way they could to try and get a result when things weren't working out their way. But for the Broncos, they dominated really well, especially in that period of the amount of repeated sets that the Sharks had on their line. Very important that for the Broncos to really maintain and hold that down. Towards the end of that half, they lost Adam Reynolds in the first half to HIA, and they lost Payne Haas in the second half to that shoulder, which was playing up for him in the last few minutes of that first half. But they didn't walk away from their game plan. You know, everyone around them just really stepped up and played an influential role. The Kotoni Staggs versus Siosifa Talakai battle was clearly won by Kotoni Staggs. The Sharks' issue here was they didn't go down the left-hand side like they always do and try to get early ball to Talakai. Talakai didn't have the best of nights. He made about 3 or 4 errors as well and was really well maintained there by Kotoni. Kotoni really came up for a big game. You knew he was primed. He heard all the talk throughout the week of these two animals coming together. And Kotoni Staggs held himself really well. You know, scored that try in the first half with some really beautiful play, getting outside of Talakai, and then cutting through and within millimeters staying inside the field to score that try on Militado. Really, really aimed up there, Kotoni Staggs, really doing himself no harm to get that Blues jersey. And I thought, as I said, Talakai made a couple of errors which were a bit uncharacteristic. I think we're all expecting him to have such a very dominant game every single week like he did against the Sea Eagles, but it was a much quieter effort from Talakai there. But nonetheless, the Sharks were just very ill-disciplined. They made too many errors. They couldn't seem to get their attack right, and it really let them down in the end. And they went down to a very gallant Brisbane side who were very good defensively, and just everyone that went there, they did their job and really just focused on defending their line as much as they could and ended up getting the result. Now, Corey Jensen had an outstanding game. 18 runs, 167 meters, 92 post-contact, and 26 tackles. Kind of a no-mucking around effort there from Corey Jensen. Really starting to see a lot of him, come into that side and really rip in and put in big performances. Only 22 years old, future's bright for him, and really good to see him pick up that load that Payne Haas will leave obviously on the field there. Obviously, him coming off with that AC joint injury in the shoulder. It was good to see Jensen really pick up the slack there. But look, the Sharks have a bit of work to do. They've had a few weeks there where they haven't been playing their best footy, so they've really got to start waking up to themselves and really trying to start bringing back that form that, you know, in the early rounds of the season that had them really dying to get into that top 4 spot. The Panthers 18 defeated the Titans 4, easily the worst performance of the year by the Panthers. I thought that first half was diabolical. Now, in saying that, they did come out in the second half, to an extent, look like a bit of a brand new team. They started to go to what works for them. They started to utilize Cleary a bit more. They got the backs a bit more involved. They were less error prone than they were in the first half, because in the first half they made about 10, 11 errors alone. But they had a much better performance in that second half. And you could really see Cleary's direction and Cleary stepping up when it mattered most. And I thought that was really important to see from him, considering they were lacking that punch. They were lacking just that finishing style of attack. In the first half, they couldn't get through to 5 tackles because they kept making that many errors. It was very uncharacteristic like in that first half. But they finished the game with missing 49 tackles and making 12 errors, which really needs a lot of improvement considering they come up against Parramatta this week in their local derby. But they will be better. They'll be better than what they dished out on Friday night, and they'll be able to come in this Friday with a clearer mindset of how to play and what it takes to play against a side like Parramatta. For the Titans, I thought in the first half they were pretty good. They had a lot of opportunities, though, that they really could have blown the Panthers away. They could have had them, honestly, at least 24 to 30 nil had they gotten all those opportunities and nailed them at those particular moments. I found it very disappointing that they couldn't ice them, but it comes back to the lack of experience in that spine. Because there's no experience there, AJ Brimson moved to fullback. Campbell's still not ready to come back into the side at this stage. It was just tough. Will Smith, did his best. He performed, from his heart, but unfortunately, they just couldn't ice those moments, and that's what it came down to. And because they couldn't ice those moments, the second they let that try in for the Panthers, they got on the back foot for the rest of the game in that second half. But like I said, the first half was pretty good, but like I said, because they couldn't act on those particular opportunities, he really stuffed the Titans up, and he allowed the Panthers to come back in the game and eventually win it. And for the Titans, they couldn't score another point in that second half. Now, the problem I have here with the Titans at the moment is Justin Holbrook and what he's doing with David Fifita. I'm really not understanding why your 80-minute back rower got moved to center one week and then the next week gets put on the bench for impact. Just not understanding that. It's not working. It's very clear that Dave Fifita belongs starting in that 12 jersey, playing 80 minutes. He can create something out of nothing most weeks. Why he's getting limited amount of time on the field, why he isn't getting the 80 minutes that he needs to be playing every week, it baffles me. It really baffles me. And this experiment that whole book is trying to really instill there, it's genuinely frustrating because he needs to be there 80 minutes every week, dominating that left-hand side of the field. But unfortunately, he's gone from second row to center, from center to the bench, playing 40 to 50 minutes, and he's not having that same impact. They've got to keep him on the field for 80 minutes. But unfortunately, obviously, he's now done his MCL, so he'll be out for a few weeks, which will give Justin Holbrook some time to really realise what he's done wrong and how he can improve on getting Fifita out there for 80 minutes every week. Now, James Fisher-Harris had a blinder of a game. 17 runs, 165 metres, 68 post-contact metres with a tackle break and 41 tackles. And Tena Fa'asuma-La'awi, a really good performance from the captain there. 19 runs, 163 metres, 7 tackle breaks, and offload and 40 tackles. I've been finding that with Fa'asuma-La'awi's performance in recent weeks, he's really taking it all in about being a captain or what it is to be a leader on the field. And he's really showing that in his performances, which has been really impressive to see. I think the moment of the game for me was when Will Smith chased down Taylor May. And that effort in the first half, I thought was just absolutely brilliant. And it was a great try saver. And then Penrith blundered that particular opportunity in that moment. If they had spread it out all the way to the right, it was a definite try. But the courage it took for Will Smith to get to the other side of the field to get to May and then get him a few metres before the line was absolutely impressive. So just a shout out there to Will Smith for that impressive defensive display there. The Rabbitohs 40 defeated the Seagulls 22 at Gosford. And look, I don't see all the hype in the Rabbitohs still. They put 40 points on a Seagulls side that played with 12 men for 70 minutes or 71 minutes. But they still conceded 22 points to 12 players. And it still feels like the players aren't where they need to be. I feel like the club in itself, I keep saying every week, but they are genuinely missing Adam Reynolds. The calmness he brings, the experience he's got there, what he can do to that side. He's really, you can tell they're missing it. Because they're missing it so much, they're not getting that same impact they're getting with Ilias because he's still very young in his career. But the Rabbitohs shouldn't be walking away very impressed with that performance. You can't concede 22 points to 12 men if you're going to be dominating them almost the entire game. It's a team like that you should be putting 50 to 60 on and not letting them score any points. Now, we'll talk about the send-off. And when I first saw the footage, I didn't think it was a send-off. And I thought, harsh call, not a great call, don't like it. But I've been watching it over and over. And if I could be 100% honest, I genuinely think it was a send-off. He had his legs caught up in a horizontal position. And I don't consider the potential injury that it could have had. Because every tackle, you can potentially get injured. So I'm not going to sit here and play about the injury. But it was a dangerous tackle. And I can't look past it not being a send-off. I don't think a sin bin would have been plausible in that moment. I do commend the refs for actually giving it a send-off in that moment. I thought it was the right call. And not that Carl Lawton had any malice in it, but it was just a tackle going wrong. Could have been worse for the player, but that's not where I'm basing my decision. I just thought the tackle in itself, and thought the way he landed as well, I really looked at that and I thought it was definitely a send-off. But look, the Sea Eagles played instrumentally well. For 71 minutes with 12 men, I thought they were fantastic. You know, there were patches of that game where they really owned the Rabbitohs, especially in that first half. Towards the end of that first half, they were controlling and dominating the Rabbitohs. And then there were instances in the second half where they started to get over the top of the Rabbitohs, but unfortunately, just a couple of errors. The players were a lot more fatigued than they would have usually been. And it calls the Rabbitohs to just be fresh and get over the top of them, and having that extra man on the field obviously helped as well. But I'm not going to sit here and rip the Sea Eagles. I thought they played extremely well considering the circumstances. And they completed higher than the Rabbitohs. They completed at 83% in their sets. The Rabbitohs completed at 80%. Not that they were terrible, but mainly controlled the ball better and held the ball longer. But unfortunately, only had 12 players on the field to do so. Tom Burgess, 16 runs, 186 meters, 76 post-contact. He had a try line break, 6 tackle breaks, and 25 tackles as well. And a bit of a shout out there to Keon Koloamatangi, who's playing some really good footy. And wouldn't surprise me if him or Hamoli Olakawatu actually get a call up into the New South Wales Origin squad this year. I thought they've both been playing really good footy, and it's been really inspiring to see the next generation come through and really dominate in their performances. The Warriors 21 defeated the Raiders 20. Now, this game had to be probably one of the worst games I've ever watched in terms of errors and in terms of just what I had to witness, just what I had to see from these sides. The Warriors did enough to win. Don't know. Again, can't explain that. You know, the Raiders get off to a 20-12 halftime lead and then concede 9 points in that second half, or 8 points, and then for it to go to golden point for them to lose, they're really struggling at the moment. They're down on confidence. Nothing's working for them. Shield's trying to experiment different things, but it's just not happening at the moment. Raiders had 70% completion and lost the game. Warriors won it with 59% completion. There was 25 errors in the second half alone, and it really begs a question. You know, Warriors were missing 4 or 5 players. You know, they copped the hiding of 70 points to 10 the week before against the Storm. But I thought they showed a lot of character and they showed a lot of determination to do what they could to get the win over the line. And I genuinely thought that they did enough and played well enough to win that game. Even though what they performed and what they dished up was very poor, I just thought that they got the win because the Raiders are going through such a dry patch at the moment. Really missing their leadership on the field with Josh Hodgson. Really missing it. And now my question about the Raiders is, I've got questions over their high performance management in their sports science. You know, I just look at the team and they're on cracking form for the first 40 minutes. They're up there. They get up in your face. They're very aggressive in that first 40. But I don't know what happens at halftime. I don't know what gets said for them to come out in the second half and just concede and give up and not perform to the same level they did in that first half. It's got to come down to the high performance unit. It's got to come down to that. They've been struggling with this for years since the 2019 Grand Final. So they seem drained. They don't seem fit enough. You can't really sit and say that they don't care. They do care. But I think everyone that sees is overplaying their hand at the moment. And because they're overplaying their hand, they are struggling to get the proper results that they want. They are missing Jamal Fogarty as an experienced 7, a bit more experience than Schneider. Well, I think he's doing a really good job, but the rest of the team aren't really aiming up. Now, one problem I had with this game was Matt Lodge, in the dying minutes of that game, copping a shot that didn't deserve a penalty, but he knew by faking it and getting those 2 points would be beneficial for his side. This is the NRL's fault. The NRL have let him get away with this for far too long. We've gone soft on these issues for many years now, and this is a result of it. Players faking to get a penalty. And look, the Warriors should not have won that game. That game should have been handed over to the Raiders. But someone milked the penalty. They played the what do you call it? I'm injured, the fake injury game. They put on a bit of a show there, and it costed them big time. Because and by them, it cost the game. It didn't cost the Warriors. The Warriors got beneficiary of it. They got 2 points. Matt Lodge didn't go off for HIA because there was no hit to the head when he should have. He was stayed down that whole time, tried to get a penalty, got the penalty. They get the 2, then they eventually go and win the game. I think was very poor from Matt Lodge as well. His credibility, I think, was very poor. It's very unsportsmanship-like. That was displayed there in that moment. So, but look, the Raiders are in a bit of a rut. The Warriors finally get the win that they needed to bounce back from that 60-point shellacking they copped. But I think for now, the Raiders need to really analyse where they're at, where they need to be, what they need to do to be better, because at the moment, they seem to be really struggling for answers at the moment. Anthony Blake, 17 runs, 145 metres, 66 post-contact metres and 24 tackles. Another effort from him, the most influential in the forward pack on that side. Corey Horsburgh, 14 runs, 157 metres, 54 post-contact metres, a line break and 22 tackles. It was a big performance from him, starting to find his feet and starting to find some pretty okay form there. The Bulldogs 16 defeated the Roosters 12. Now, I've been saying that the Dogs are due for a win for a bit over 6 weeks now. And to finally get in the circumstances that we got it in, I'll take it. I'm very happy. Win's a win. You take the 2 points. It was scrappy. It was ugly. We defended our line a lot, but the job was done. It's been a horrid run for the last 4 or 5 weeks. A lot of crap talk about Gould coming in and ripping the players, which needed to be done because we got a result from it. I hope he's there every week. But my problem here is I just can't seem to put my finger on why the Roosters have been so poor. I'm really not understanding at the moment. They don't look like the side that we're all used to seeing. And they've got quality players. Tedesco, Manu, Walker, Kiri. Great spine with Verrills at hooker. Then you've got great backs. You've got decent forwards. We're talking a top 4 team here. Now I've lost back-to-back against the Dragons, now the Bulldogs. They have a lot of work to get done. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. They just seem a bit clunky. Joey Manu gets involved whenever he wants to, so it's not an every week thing, so I've noticed that. He had like 6 runs for 50 metres on the weekend. Not good enough. Really not good enough. You got to be doing more. You got to be looking to be better. You got to be looking to create more opportunities. By creating more opportunities, what you're able to do in that moment is potentially win games like this. They should have won this game comfortably. But the Bulldogs wanted it more. They defended really well and got themselves out to a decent enough lead for them to hold on and win. And I'm very proud of their efforts. The moment for me in that game was Matt Burton. In the dying minutes where Swiley scores that try in the corner, Burton runs from the middle of the field after getting collected by the second rower. Doesn't make an excuse, continues to run down and then takes Swiley out by the legs and his foot scrapes the touchline. That doesn't happen. Roosters win the game. We're talking about a different conversation about the Bulldogs. But little effort areas like that from Matt Burton really, really impressed me. And I was so thrilled to see that from him come up with that play and to hold on for that 2 more minutes and to win the game. Got to say, I was really impressed. And the Dogs aren't last anymore. So I've got to be pretty happy about that, considering that we've been last since round 4 or round 3. So good to see that we're not dead last anymore, but we need to start building our season. We can't go backwards. And that's what I'm really scared about, that the Bulldogs will find a way to go backwards. But the Roosters have a lot of deep thinking to do, a lot of hard training they need to go through, and they need to go through a lot of video to see what is going on and why they're struggling so much. Cowboys 35 defeated the Eagles 4. This was unbelievable from the Cowboys. Oop, my bad. Unbelievable from the Cowboys. Great in attack, great in defense. And to put a side like Parramatta away the way they did so comfortably, I'm starting to turn my eyes around on the Cowboys. I'm starting to look at, okay, Payton's, they're buying into what he's trying to do. They finally have realised that he is tough and he expects results and demands results. And while I was under a lot of pressure last year, A lot of questionable stuff about his recruitment, but he's absolutely come out this year and been unbelievable. Sitting third on the ladder, as you can see here. And they're playing some great footy. They caught the Eels lacking on the edges so many times. And they were just so courageous in defense as well. They had, especially in Parramatta, the first 25 minutes were dominated by Parramatta on the Cowboys line, and they couldn't get through. Nothing they did worked. The Eels were diabolical. There was nothing in attack, and there was nothing great in their performance whatsoever. Their forwards didn't aim up. Backs couldn't control anything. Gutherson looked really lost and got steamrolled a few times. It was a very ordinary performance. But the main thing I want to take from this game, and I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here, is the criticism on Jakob Arthur. Now, I know it's been spoken about a little bit this week, but I wanted to give my 2 cents here on this. It doesn't matter if you're the coach's son or you're not the coach's son. If you're not performing, you need to be told about it. The fans are entitled to their own opinion. Now, I am not going to go in and say that throwing out death threats and threatening different things to players or families, whatever, I don't condone. But the fans have a say. And if they see something they don't like, they're going to call it out. If we look at the round 7 clash between the Eels and the Knights, Jakob Arthur played in the halves that game. Now, obviously, because the Parramatta Eels won and so well, there wasn't much to say about Jakob Arthur. But even fans had said that Jakob Arthur did nothing that game. So if I look here, Jakob Arthur came in, played the 80 minutes. He made 8 runs for 40 metres. Had no attacking stats that whole game. Made 20 tackles and missed 4. Did nothing that game. Nothing inspiring. Nothing influential by any means. But if you look at someone like Mitch Moses, who's been running that side, and in that game, I looked at and thought was very influential. So the stats for Mitch Moses, just bringing up here for you now, where he had a try assist. So he played the 8 minutes, had a try assist, took 9 runs for 100 metres, 4 tackle breaks, a line break, made 14 tackles. So had more of an influence. Now, Dylan Brown had more influence in the centres than Jakob Arthur did in the halves. But the point I'm trying to make here is that he did nothing that game, and then he did absolutely nothing and less than what he did in the Knights game in this game against the Cowboys. Jakob Arthur, 3 runs, 13 metres, no attacking stats, and 20 tackles. The point I'm trying to make is that Jakob Arthur's done nothing in the last fortnight. I find it laughable, genuinely laughable, that Parramatta finally get their halves clicking into gear. Moses is playing some really good football apart from that weekend. Dylan Brown's been playing some great football in the halves. They find what's working, then they shift Dylan Brown to the centres. They've had a lot of injuries. Marcus Evo, Rada Niukore, Sean Russell, Solomon Neduki. I get it. There's been a few injuries. There's still Zach Senior in New South Wales Cup. Not that I'm thinking he is a superstar of it by any means, but he can get the job done. He's played first grade before. He knows what it takes to fill in a couple of weeks. You don't mess with the spine. That's the point I'm trying to make here. The fact that Dylan Brown got taken from his preferred position to the centres to chuck Jakob Arthur in, who's done absolutely nothing in the last fortnight, the criticism is warranted. What even made it worse was the Parramatta social media team came out and said, let's not talk about Jakob Arthur like that. No comments will be tolerated. No. Obviously, if they're appropriate and he's garbage and he isn't playing good football, they're warranted. They're legitimate comments. The stats back it up. He went in there and he made 3-4 errors as well on top of that on the weekend. Did it try to do a short ball to Papali'i, smacked him straight in the head. Dropped the ball once or twice. You know, things that he was trying to do didn't work, and he was so poor on Saturday night. He was poor against the Knights. He was poor on Saturday night. Something has to change. But we're talking about Brad Arthur here. The guy who finally sees something working and then wants to change it up just to throw his son in for an opportunity. Say what you want, talk to the captains, this and that. I don't care. That's all garbage. The fact that he's not performing says a lot. And if the Parramatta fans and the Parramatta faithful are going to get up and kick a stink about it, they deserve to. So they should. It's not fair on them that they have to see one of the most informed 5'8" in the comp at the moment, Dylan Brown, being pushed out to the centres for Jakob Arthur, who's offered nothing in attack and has not been influential whatsoever. The criticism is warranted. both on Brad Arthur and on Jakob Arthur. That's all I'll say on that. As I said, the Eels were woeful. The Cowboys demolished them. The Eels need to go back to the drawing board. They come up against Penrith on Friday night, who are in red hot form. I know Parramatta will turn up and they'll turn it around, and it'll be quite the contest. But they really got to bounce back from this game. Very poor game. Storm 50 defeated the Knights too. And look, I can honestly say, this was embarrassing from kickoff. Knights kicked the ball out on the full. You just knew that this was not going to be a good day. They kicked the ball out on the full. Storm scored straight away. And that's it. That roll on continued the whole way through. Knights get the penalty on the 40th minute. Take the 2 points. They're down 26-2. Last week, 25,000 people rocked up to the game when they got thumped 39-2. This week, 15,000 rocked up. They got thumped 50-2. 89-4 in the last 2 weeks. The Knights have just been disgusting as of recent. They've had a few injuries in the forwards, but the spine has still been there. Adam Clune's been playing on with a PCL injury. The form that Jake Clifford was in the beginning of the season has disappeared. The hype around Callum Ponga is getting way too ridiculous. He's been nothing but a distraction to the side and to the whole organisation. And the performances are showing it. 8-9 points to 4 in the last 2 weeks. Then in the second half, Storm kick off, and they watch the ball go to the dead ball line. No intent, no will to be better, no will to win. And that's the disappointing part of it all. They've been so bad. They didn't have the ball for the first 12 minutes. 12 minutes of the first half, they didn't touch the ball. They would have had the opportunity if they'd kicked the ball in the field of play, off kickoff, and Storm kicked the ball down the field. But unfortunately, they kicked it out on the full, and they didn't see the ball for the first 12 minutes. They had penalties go against them. They were very ill-disciplined. 12 minutes without the ball. And they were down 12. They were down 10-0 by the time they finally got the ball. You can't be doing that. One of the ex-players that played for Storm that day came back and bit him straight in the backside. Josh King. What a player he's been. What a signing he's been for the club. But the Storm have signed Josh King from Newcastle, who haven't been doing that well. They made the finals last year. Nick Meaney from the Dogs, who won a wooden spoon. Xavier Coates from the Broncos, who the club has been really poor in the last few years, has taken those three guys from these very poor clubs and turned them into genuine superstars. And then Melbourne do it every year, and we freak out over it. But these three guys who picked up from these clubs that aren't doing so great and turned them into freaks of nature. And one of them, Josh King, the fittest throughout the whole preseason, fittest in all the fitness tests, killed it all, made 24 runs, 212 meters, a tackle break, offload, 22 tackles. Really inspirational performance from Josh King, really finding his feet at Melbourne Storm, and really good to see him playing some really, really good footy. And to come back and do it against your old club, very bittersweet, but job needed to be done. The Knights have a lot of work to do. They've made a lot of changes for that to happen, but they're just in a very, very poor run at the moment, and now 6 losses in a row, they're sitting dead last. Very disappointing. In the final game of the round, Dragons 12 defeated the Tigers 6. 3 wins in a row from the Saints. They couldn't capitalise on a lot of the opportunities that they had in that first half and even in the second half, but they defended really, really well. As long as they couldn't capitalise, but they knew they had to defend their backside off, and the Tigers couldn't capitalise on those opportunities as well, unfortunately. But the Dragons will come and take a lot of confidence from that. Against Melbourne, they've won 3 on the trot. They've been very good defensively in the last few weeks. They'll need to be 10 gears better because the Storm are in red-hot form at the moment. But the Tigers, look, it was a bit disappointing they didn't get this win. They tried to win at last second like they always do. A couple of moments towards the end of that game where Hastings would be calling for the ball and the ball wasn't given to him. And he lost it and he'd lose his mind and he wouldn't understand why. He'd find an opening on the short side and they wouldn't give the ball to him. So communication needs a bit of work there. But we are seeing a different Tiger side from what we've seen in the first 6 rounds. We are genuinely seeing, or the first 5 rounds, we're genuinely seeing a different Tiger side. And Brooks is able to play the game that we've always known he's been able to play, which has been really good to see and really interesting. Looking a lot more comfortable, a lot more free, a lot more relaxed, while Hastings runs the team, calls the shots, makes it all happen. And it was a tight game in the end, but Tigers couldn't do enough to get that win and went down 12 points to 6. Moving on to our Supercoach segment. Finished on 11.43 this week. Won 4 of 5 of my leagues. So I was pretty impressed with that. I've made some big trades. I've used my first booster trade this week and I'm really excited to share. So I traded out Lachlan Ilias to Tamari Martin. So I had 89K to start off with. I traded Locking Ellis to Tamari Martin, made me 100K, roughly. I then traded Peter Hiku, who got benched on the weekend when Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow came on in that 15-minute spell and terrorised the Eels. He got benched. So I traded him for Isaiah Tass, who's got a minus 50-odd break-even at 175K, should be making me some money. And then I upgraded Brad Schneider, who's been phenomenal, made me over 200K. He's been absolutely fantastic. I traded him for Daly Cherry Evans. So my side now at the moment, we don't have Payne Haas playing this week because he's out with that AC joint issue in his shoulder, but Ola Kawatu comes back into my side. So my starting side, I've got Pappenhausen at fullback. My centre wings, I have Zach Lomax, Kotoni Staggs, Taylor May, and the spot is open between Isaiah Tass and Tola Talkula with Penasini on my reserves. My halves, in the starting, I've got Munster at 5'8", Cleary at halfback. My back row, I've got Siosifa Talakai, Hamoli Olakawatu, and I have Dry Arrow, starting in that second row forward lock rotation there. My props for this week, because Payne Haas is out, I have Fanua Blake and Max King starting, and I have Harry Grant at hooker. And my bench for this week, I've got Max King from the Bulldogs. I've got Isaac Targo from the Panthers. I have Daly Cherry Evans from the Sea Eagles, and I have James Tedesco as my 4 reserves this week. So it should be a cracking contest this week. Should be getting more wins, but our side's really coming together. Next week, I'll probably get rid of Fanua Blake for Taumalolo, maybe upgrade or downgrade Talakai to Isaiah Papali'i, and then maybe make another booster trade there, seeing what I'm feeling and who else I can bring into that side. But side's starting to take some really good shape at the moment. News around the NRL world. So Queensland were looking to approach the grand final from Sydney, but as talks have broken down between Dominic Perrottet and Peter V'landys, a lot of work needs to be done around that. And there will be definitely some changes in the near future to ensure that Sydney don't lose that grand final and that they lock it in here for the next 20 to 30 years as what was originally agreed to. Tui Kamika has been cleared of assault charges. The charges against him have been dropped. He made his comeback in Queensland Cup last week. Suspended for 9 matches and fined $10,000. So what will happen now is he will come back into consideration. Those 9 weeks were backdated to round 8 this week, so he'll be available next week is available this week. And he'll be suspended this week. I'm getting confused. It will be available next week in round 10. Sorry about that, guys. The Tigers, bit of news here. They are not signing Brito Nakora and Franklin Pele. Both deals are now dead in the water. Both of those players at this stage aren't heading to the Tigers. Thomas McKaylee is most likely heading to the Dolphins. In a bit of interesting news there. There's a good chance he will leave the club and head to the Dolphins. The Knights have offered Tex Hoy to the Tigers on a loan deal, but at the moment, with the Knights' current injury crisis and situation, it seems to be off the table. And Joe Ofahengawi has taken up his player option to play next year, which should be announced shortly as well. Over the State of Origin weekend on June 25th and 26th, there will be 3 rugby league games international, which will have World Cup implications there. New Zealand will play Tonga in New Zealand, which is really exciting. Samoa will versus Cook Islands and Papua New Guinea will versus Fiji at Leichhardt Oval, which is going to be an insane match, both on the 25th at Leichhardt Oval of June, and the next day there'll be the State of Origin game 2 between New South Wales and Queensland. Matt Morgan's management want to shop more than to the Broncos if they can't get a deal done with the Sharks. Hobie Farnworth has toured the Dolphins facilities this week, has liked what he's seen, and he'll be looking to make a decision over the next few weeks. The Eagles are keen on bringing in Jackson Paulo with immediate effect to cover up the injury crisis there. Blake Ferguson has signed a new deal with the Leigh Centurions, which is good to see from him. Finally get a deal in the NRL over in the Super League and play out the rest of the season there. The Warriors have signed Ronald Volkman on a 3-year deal from the Roosters, and it's a great signing for the Warriors there as they continue to boost their side and bring up some more talent. Jack Bostock has signed with the Dolphins on a multi-year deal and will head to the Dolphins next year. He's a Dragons junior and a quality back, and the Dolphins are really keen to bring him on there, so they've signed him. Ash Taylor has retired from the game effective immediately due to ongoing hip injuries, so all the best to Ash Taylor in retirement. Dave Fafita has had conversations with Wayne Bennett about potentially going to the Dolphins in 2024. And Tamari Martin will be looking to get an upgraded deal and will most likely sign a 2-year contract extension at the Brisbane Broncos. Now, that's all the news around the NRL world. Let's get into round 9 talking points and who's in and who's out and my tips. Rabbitohs will come up against the Broncos this week. For the Rabbitohs, Jaime Selene and Liam Knight come into the side. Now, Tanya Milne comes onto the wing for Josh Mansell, and Davey Moali will be in the side with Shakai Mitchell, who made his debut last week, out of the side. For the Broncos, Payne Haas is out with the AC joint issue in his shoulder. He's replaced by Pat Carrigan, who's making a return from a knee injury, while TC Rabadi will replace Kurt Capewell in the starting side there. Now, this will be the first time that Adam Reynolds comes up against his old club, so he'll be looking to prove a point there, and I'm going to back the Broncos to win this game. I'm going to back him to win that by 6 points. The Raiders come up against the Bulldogs. Jared Croker replaces Semi Valame in the centres. Charles Nickel-Klokstad comes back at fullback, pushing Rapana to the wing, Xavier Savage to the reserves. Jack White is suspended for 2 weeks for a lifting tackle. He is replaced by Matt Frawley at 5'8". And Ellie Whitehead's back in the side this week, pushing Corey Harry-Onara to the bench and Harry Rushton over to the reserves. For the Bulldogs, Josh Jackson returns from COVID at lock, pushing Max King to the bench and Billy Tsikrikas to the reserves, while Brent Naden comes back on the wing, pushing Ockenbaugh to the reserves as well. Now, Raiders do get a bit of talent back in Elliot Whitehead and Jared Croker. He's playing his first game of the year, but I'm going to go Bulldogs to win this one and win it by 10 points. Panthers come up against the Eagles. Panthers 1-17 with Moses Leota and Brian Thornton on extended bench, so keep your eye out for late mail. For the Eagles, Tom Opicic will make his return from a neck injury, pushing Dylan Brown to 5'8" and Jakob out of the side altogether. Good, about time. And I'm going to back the Panthers to win by 6 points in this absolute nail-biter of a clash. Seagulls come up against the Tigers. Tom Trbojevic returns at fullback, with Ben Trbojevic replacing Brad Parker in the centres, who's out with a partial ACL tear. With Ruben Garrett going over to the wing. Hamali Olakauatu comes from suspension to replace Carl Lorden, who's out for a month for that lifting tackle, with Josh Aloy back on the bench. For the Tigers, big outs here. Luciano Leilua and David Orfaluma out with hamstring and concussion out this week. Momalo starts on the wing to replace Orfaluma, and Alex Seyfarth replaces Luciano Leilua. Jake Simpkin comes into the side at hooker, pushing Jacob Little to the reserves. Stefano Toikamanu returns from their ankle syndesmosis injury off the bench, and Tyron Peachy replaces Jock Madden on the bench there, who's been moved to the reserves. And with Tom Trbojevic back in the side, even though there are missing Jason Saab and Brad Parker, Saab's out with a toe issue, with 2 players moving to the wing. I'm going to go Seagulls by 16 points, and they should win this one pretty comfortably. Roosters come up against the Titans. Daniel Tupou and Paul Momorowski come back from suspension and illness, respectively, pushing Kevin Nagama to the reserves and Adam Kieran out of the squad altogether, who's out for a few weeks with an ankle injury. For the Titans, Fafita's out for a month, and he's been replaced by Sam McIntyre in the squad, with Kevin Proctor starting in the back row alongside Bo Firma. And I'm going to back the Roosters to win this game and win it by 6 points. I think they'll come back, and I think they'll hopefully click into gear and get that win and try to avoid losing 3 straight. Cowboys come up against the Knights. Cowboys 1-17 from the impressive win last week. The Knights host the changes here. Tex Hoy comes into the 5'8" to replace Jack Clifford, who's out of the side due to personal reasons. Adam Clune has been injured with his knee. He's been replaced by Phoenix Crossland in the halves. So the new halves pairing of Hoy and Crossland. Lachlan Fitzgibbon and Dominic Young have been named to return from their injuries, taking the spots of Simi Sasagi in the back line and Brody Jones in the forwards, who's out of that side altogether. And Leo Thompson has been named at lock, with Kurt Mann out with an ankle injury, with Matt Croker and Pasami Solo joining the bench, and it's going to be a bit of a hiding there from the Cowboys, and they should win this one 18+. Storm come up against the Dragons. Should be an interesting game, this one. Dragons winning 3 on the trot, and Storm being on absolute fire at the moment. Tapai Moroa is out for 6 weeks with a shoulder injury, with Jordan Grant coming into the 17 and the only change there for the Storm. While for the Dragons, Jack Bird returns from that arm injury at 5'8", shifting Talatau Mania to the bench and Jaden Sullivan to the reserves. And Storm should win this one comfortably. And the last game, Sharks versus Warriors. Dale Finucane's back into the side starting lock, moving McInnes to the bench and Trindle to 18th man. And for the Warriors, Dan Martinez-Lesniak replaces Jesse Arthurs on the wing, who's out with a shoulder injury. Rocco Berry and Viliami Vele are staying where they are. And Elisa Katoa starts in the back row, with Aaron Penne moving to the bench, coming back from suspension, and Bailey Siwanen moving to 18th man. And I'm going to go Sharks to bounce back and Talakai to have an absolute monster of a game. Well, guys, that's all for this week. Thanks for joining me on another brand new episode. As you guys know, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and we are all over the podcasting streams as well as Instagram. Make sure to like, share, subscribe to the page. Any more content you want us to release, let us know. We'll see what we'll be able to do for you. If you want to jump on the show, leaguechatwiththestat@gmail.com. And like I said, we're going to be cracking into round 9. Enjoy the weekend. Next week is Magic Round. I'm really excited for that. And we'll be back next week, same time, with a brand new episode. But I appreciate you joining me this week. Drop a comment if you want to discuss anything that I've mentioned in this week's episode, and we'll be able to discuss that in the comment section. So thanks for your time this week. Enjoy the weekend of footy coming up, and we'll be back next week to talk about everything round 9. All the best, guys. Take care.